Okay, welcome. So today is our, our Move into Stillness meeting. It's a nice turnout for a Move into Stillness meeting. So we're going to be doing some actual movement explorations today, and we're going to mostly be doing, if possible, we're going to be doing them lying down on the back. If that's not possible for you, then we'll see what, we'll see what, if you need some modifications, let me know. If you need to be seated, let me know in the chat. And I can do my best to give you some modifications that you can do seated, but ideally you'll be lying down on your back. So go ahead and do that if you're not already lying on your back. So you want to have a as firm and flat of a surface as reasonably possible. When I say firm, however, that does not mean that you should be lying on a bed of nails or concrete or anything like that. You can have some padding for your comfort, but you want it to be flat and firm. So if you can not be lying on a mattress, that would be excellent. If your only option is to lie on a mattress, then that's fine. You do that, and you can still get benefits. But if you can lie on a firm, flat surface, please do. And you're going to want to lie on your back. And I'm going to give you a little bit of some introduction to get you properly oriented so you can get the maximum benefit. Some useful reminders about what we're doing and why we're doing it and how it works and so forth. So I want you to make the most of this time, not only by hearing and receiving what it is that's said, but also by being present to the somatic experience. So that means that you want to actually feel what it is to be, in this case, lying on your back. So if possible, you will likely want to bend your knees. And before you rush into that, maybe you've already done it, but if you have not, then just be aware of how you bend the knees. Do you do them one at a time? Do you do both of them at the same time? Do you just fling them? Do you know what you're doing? Is it controlled? Is it conscious? Or, see what's possible. And see how smoothly, how effortlessly, how pleasurably can you bend the knees. And then you want to have the feet on the surface that you're lying on, near to the buttocks, as near as is comfortable. And your knees are up, or I should say forward, because we'll give the directions relative to the soma. So relative to your perception of what is forward. So you have a face, even though a soma is not a physical body, a soma does have a face because it has an orientation. So you have a clear sense of what is forward. So your knees are forward, which in this case is going to be toward the ceiling or the sky if you're outside. Your feet are on the surface that you're resting on. And then notice that what is this experience like? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel stable? Do you feel like you could rest here indefinitely, or is this something strenuous? Are you enduring something already? Because we've got roughly an hour here. So if you're trying to endure, which is the normal way that we try to do things, that's going to be a rough hour. So don't do that to yourself. That's really one of the important lessons that's available, not exclusively to somatics, but one of the lessons available through somatics is just, ease up. Why do you have to do things in such a hard way? Why are you always gritting your teeth? Why are you always clenching your jaw? Why are you always furrowing your brow? Why are you holding your breath? Why are you squeezing? Why are you making so much unnecessary effort? And when I point these things out, notice if you have a sense of I don't know, shame or something along those lines, and just see that that's not a useful or beneficial reaction. So it comes if it does, but you don't need to give it any particular attention. Just let it go and see that everything that's pointed out and everything that is available to you that you can discover in your whole life, but certainly for the remainder of this meeting, is for your good. It's something that can help you. So when I point these things out, it's not so that you can then secretly try to hide it and protect yourself against ever being found out. No, it's quite the opposite. It's so that you can expose this to yourself and you can finally start to make conscious choices. You can choose, how about this? You could choose to relax. You could choose to make it easier on yourself. You could choose to let the surface that you're on do the work for you and let the structure, the bones, skeleton do the work rather than you making all of this unnecessary effort all the time. So, in other words, be conscious, be aware. This whole time, your primary job is to be aware. If that's not clear to you what that means, well, explore it so that you can figure it out. Don't ever settle for the excuse of it's too hard or I don't understand and so I give up. I promise you that there are many riches available to you, and all that's required is that you earnestly, sincerely commit yourself to that discovery, and that's available to you now. So just give yourself to that exploration. So find out also now, what can you do to allow this to be easier? So there's some amount of muscular effort that is required in order to keep the knees up or forward, okay, to have them bent in this fashion. There's some amount of muscular effort, but it's probably much less than you think. So find out what you're doing that makes it harder than it needs to be. And one good way to do that is simply to surrender. So find out, are you lifting up somehow? Are you squeezing the buttocks? What are you doing? Trying to brace yourself, and then wonder, what are you trying to brace yourself against? See that it's possible to surrender. Let the thighs be heavy. Let the upper portion of the thigh, where the ball of the femur, the trochanter, fits into the hip socket. Let that be heavy so that the weight is taken by the surface that you're on rather than you making a whole bunch of unnecessary effort. See also, are your knees going in? Are they going out? What is more comfortable? What allows you to be more relaxed? And play a little bit with it. Don't make extreme, exaggerated movements, but allow yourself to have a little bit of play. You are free to make some movements. Just don't make the movements unconscious. Make them conscious movements, which means you move slowly with awareness, and you find out what feels better, what's easier, what's more comfortable, what's more supportive. Maybe you want to also see about the placement of the feet. Notice you have some options here. The feet could be closer to the buttocks, a little further from the buttocks. They could be a little wider or a little narrower. See what's most comfortable for you. And in general, most people will find that within reason, when the feet are closer to the buttocks and a little bit wider versus narrower, that's going to be more stable. But you see what is true for you. And then don't hold that truth as a static thing, but let it be a dynamic exploration. So don't just, now you've planted your flag and you say, this is it. I've this is how I have to remain forever and ever and ever. I've committed to it, and come hell or high water. No, this whole life you get to play. Just make it conscious. So now, all of that, we haven't even given the introduction yet. So as I give the little bit of introduction, just notice that you get to choose. So please don't brace yourself, don't strain. If you need to do something to make it easier on yourself, do that. If you feel like it's too strenuous to bend your knees, then maybe you find that you could have the knees a little bit bent, but supported with some kind of pillows or something, some cushions or something of that sort. So play around and find what will work for you. Don't strain, and notice that tendency to try and do things perfectly or to please the instructor or whatever may be the case. And see these as all as opportunities to learn about your habits and your tendencies that really work against you. So you get to have greater freedom when you discover them, and you're no longer falsely bound by them. So a reminder that what we're exploring in these meetings, these Move into Stillness meetings, is the theme of exploration is somatics. And that means that we are exploring what it is to be a soma. A soma is a subtler sense of ourselves than our typical bodily sense. But it is not so subtle as our formless nature. So there is somewhat of a form to the soma. And the soma has certain qualities. I already suggested some of them. It has a face. So there's a forward and a backward, and it has a right and a left and an up and a down, so that you can orient yourself. So you just naturally have this awareness. And you have the ability to move in space and in time. So these are some of the characteristics of a soma. And one of the big difficulties, one of the big challenges that a soma faces is what we call sensory motor amnesia. And sensory motor amnesia means that you have forgotten how to properly move and sense yourself. And this is not a all or nothing. It's a matter of degrees. So some people have more sensory motor amnesia, and some people have less, and some people have more in certain areas, and some people have more in other areas. And our goal here is to reawaken our sensory motor awareness so that we can relieve ourselves of the unnecessary strain of sensory motor amnesia, because that sensory motor amnesia results in restriction, it results in pain, it results in discomfort, it results in a great deal of distress, actually. So we use movements done with awareness, done slowly, in order to help to reawaken the sensory motor awareness. So remember, it's very important that you do the movements slowly, and if you don't, then in some sense you're wasting your time. So just be aware of when you start moving mechanically, which usually means you're going to be moving a little bit more quickly than you need to or really should be. So just slow it down. And it's okay, because we all forget. That happens. You start with the best of intentions, and then 10 seconds later you realize you're flinging yourself all around mindlessly. So you just notice when that happens, and then slow down, be aware, let it be smooth and continuous and slow, done with awareness. And then you will find quite surprisingly enormous benefits. So one more note about that is, let the movements be within your range of relative comfort. So we don't, oftentimes what happens, we're conditioned to try and emulate something. So we have an idea, the instruction is given, we have an idea of what the ideal of that would be, and then we try to emulate that. The problem with that is it will just reinforce the sensory motor amnesia and it won't help you. So instead, just find how you can feel into that and move within the range that is available to you. It might be a very small range. It might be practically non-existent sometimes, but you move within that range to the edges of it with awareness slowly, and then you will discover what it is that you've been unconsciously doing that you can cease doing, and then you will gain greater sensory motor awareness, which will result in greater freedom, ease, and so forth. So now notice yourself here resting, hopefully resting. Notice the contact with the surface that you're on. Notice the contact of your head, and notice if there's any contact with the neck. Maybe some, maybe not much. Notice if you have any idea about what should be in contact and what shouldn't be in contact. And just we're not really interested right now in terms of what should or shouldn't, but just what is. So just notice what is, and don't try to change anything. Just be aware. Be aware of the upper back, how it's making contact. Notice the spine and the shoulder blades. How are they making contact? Does it feel even? Or are you even able to sense anything? So most of the time, we don't sense that much relative to what's possible. And that's okay, because that's our starting point. But we're just noticing. Notice the mid-back, how that's making contact or not making contact, or how you can maybe not even sense it at all. Notice if it feels even right to left. Notice the lower back. Is the lower back making contact? Does it feel even right to left? Can you also notice the pelvis? Do you even know what a pelvis is? Can you even have an idea of where it might be? And just see, can you feel if that's even right and left? What kind of contact is being made? And now notice your breathing. So just notice what the quality of the breath is. Don't try to change it. Just notice, how does it feel? Does it feel satisfying, free, comfortable, easy? You feel that you're able to have a satisfying breath, or does it feel like you have to work for it? Does it feel like the breath travels evenly to the right and to the left side of the body? Do you feel the breath in the lower portion of the torso, the abdomen? Feel it in the chest? Feel it in the shoulders and in the throat? Feel it in the face? And again, at this point, we're not having judgment about it. We're just noticing. So you might have judgment. Just notice if you have ideas about what should or shouldn't be, how it should feel, where it should be. Just notice though what it actually is. Notice, do you feel the breath on the front side of the body and on the back side of the body? And what about the lateral sides, the right and the left, on the sides of the abdomen and the sides of the rib cage? All right. So now I'd like you, if possible, explore if it's possible. I know sometimes people find it a little challenging, but we'll see what's possible. See if you can bring your right wrist or forearm, the top side, so that it rests on your forehead. See if you can find a way to do that that's comfortable. So the I say the top, what we would normally call the back of the hand, and then that wrist and the forearm. You want to see if you can find a way to make reasonably comfortable, easy contact between that and your forehead, and let the arm be as heavy and restful as possible. Be somewhat careful that you're draping the arm in such a way that you're not putting pressure on the eyeball. You don't want to put any pressure on the eyeball. It's not a requirement that you would have any pressure on the eyeball, but just in case you happen to drape the arm in such a way that it does rest over the eye, do it in a different way so that it's not going to be putting pressure on the eyeball. So your right elbow will be somewhat out, at least to the right side. And hopefully you find that you're able to do this. And then where sometimes people find it challenging is to really let that arm be relaxed so that the elbow can relax, the underarm can relax, the side of the body can relax. So see to what degree that's possible. And if it's not entirely possible, don't worry about it. If it at any point becomes strenuous, then you just find a way to rest. You don't need to power through. That would be counter to our purpose here. So now see, as you have the arm resting here, how does this change your breathing? Do you notice anything different about your breathing now? Maybe you are able to feel some new sensations in the breathing. It really depends on how much tension you hold, particularly on the right side of the torso. And then what I'd like you to do is just slowly make small movements right and left, just small, very, very small. In fact, at first I want it to be so small that you're not even sure that you're moving at all. But I want you to make some very small movements so that the arm and the hand moves slightly right and left, all the while it's going to remain in contact with the forehead. So see, this whole thing is never going to leave the forehead. Now, the contact point may change slightly, because you'll notice that as you do this, the head has to also roll. So the arm is moving slightly right and left, and the head, in order to remain in contact this whole time, the head is having to roll ever so slightly to the right and left. So you're just making these small movements right and left, and letting the head roll so ever so slightly right and left. And just notice as you do this, can you let it be easier? Where are you holding unnecessary tension? Are you clenching the jaw? Can you let the jaw relax? And now what I'd like you to do is you can just come to a neutral position. As long as this is comfortable, you just keep the arm where it is. If you need to rest from this at any point, you can bring the arm down and have a rest from it. And then when you feel ready, you can bring the arm back to the same position, because we're going to be exploring with this position for just a little bit. So now you're going to have the arm in the same position again. So now notice that you can adjust where the arm is in contact with the forehead. So it could be further toward the wrist, or it could be further up on the forearm. So you're free to explore that a little bit, whatever is most comfortable for you. And as we're going to eventually make possibly some slightly larger arcs of the movement. And if you find as you're doing that it's more comfortable to adjust how the arm is in contact, you can do that. Now, just to be clear, once you get the arm or the wrist in contact with the forehead, for the movement, you'll keep it in continuous contact. So you won't be lifting it and adjusting the point of contact as you're doing the movement. But at any point, if you want to make an adjustment to where you are, how you are resting the arm on the forehead, you can make that adjustment. I hope that's clear. So now what I'd like you to do is you're going to bring your left hand, and if possible, you're going to bring that to your left collarbone. So your right arm is resting on the forehead, and your left hand is, obviously the elbow has to bend, and you're going to bring that to the left collarbone, and you're just going to rest the fingers on the collarbone. That collarbone, if you kind of slide them along the collarbone, if you can even find it, you'll notice that that collarbone is kind of long or broad. And so you might slide the fingers back and forth along that just to get a sense of the shape and the space that it occupies. And then just slide them a little bit closer to the midline once you've found kind of the shape and position of that bone. You want to slide them a little bit toward the mid lines, not all the way, but closer to the throat. And then just rest them there. See if how much you can let that be restful. And now you're going to keep that hand there, because this is going to give you some feedback about what's going on in that part of the body, because you got a bunch of stuff that's connecting in there. And you want to just sense what's going on there as you now start that same movement with the right arm and the head, so the head remains in contact with the floor. The forearm or wrist remains in contact with the forehead. As you move the arm a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left, and the head has to roll along with the arm movement. And just let the movement be within your range of comfort, but to the edge of that a little bit. So keep it so that it's continuous and smooth. So it shouldn't be choppy. Remember, we're not just trying to emulate something. There will be no prizes given out for the person who can turn their head the furthest. There will be prizes given out for those who can do it with the most awareness, because if you do it with the most awareness, then the prize is a natural prize. You will gain sensory motor awareness, which will give you greater ease and freedom. So remember that, and move slowly and smoothly, and let the arm really rest. So just see how much can you let it rest, so that you're not unnecessarily straining to lift it up or hold it up off the forehead. Let it rest. And it will put a nice pressure on the head, actually. And if you really let that pressure transfer all the way down to the floor or the surface that you're on, you can feel that all the way back around, wrapping around the skull, all the way to the back of the head. And you can start to feel all that soft tissue all on the back of the head and on the side of the head and the forehead, and all that starts to really soften. Let it soften. Let the eyes relax. Let all the skin around the eyes and the cheeks and the ears, let that all relax. And notice what you're feeling with your left fingertips on the collarbone. Do you feel that anything there is a little bit tight? Maybe that it seems to kind of stretch a little bit particularly as the head turns to the right. So as you're rolling the head to the right, maybe you notice that you feel something there under your left fingertips. And just see that if you notice anything there, just anything, then notice what some awareness and intention can do. So a very important point. We're not trying to stretch anything in the usual way, but you'll notice that the tissue lengthens. And so as that tissue is lengthening, or some of the tissue is lengthening, it has to accommodate that movement. Notice if you have the intention to allow it to lengthen, not to stretch, but to lengthen, to soften and lengthen, to release, to relax. Notice that every time you do this movement where you let the head and arm move to the right, you can have this intention to experience greater ease and release and softness and suppleness where you have your fingers on the left side. And then if you want to pause, in fact, let's just everybody pause. Bring the head to center and bring the arms, bring both of the hands and arms down to the sides. And just notice what your breathing is like now. Okay, and now whenever you're ready, we're going to bring both of the hands and arms back into very similar positions. So the left fingers will come again to the left collarbone. Now this time you have an option. You can bring your right arm where you had it before, or if it's comfortable for you, and only if it's comfortable for you, what you can do is you can actually, you can bring the arm where it was, but then what you're going to do is you're going to turn the hand so that you can wrap it around and wrap the fingertips behind the left ear. So that you'll have to turn, most likely you'll have to turn the head a little bit to the right in order to achieve this. Now, if that's not comfortable for you, or if it's too strenuous, or you just don't want to do it, then don't. It's no problem. You can you can repeat what we just did, and that will be great. You'll get many benefits from it. But if you are comfortable or would like to do as I just suggested, you're welcome to do. So the arm will still be on the forehead, but you have to turn the hand, and you're going to bring the fingertips of the right hand behind the left ear, so that the earlobe kind of gets pulled a little bit forward. So if that's reasonably comfortable for you, then you're going to have that position. And then this time we're going to do the same movement, rolling of the head, moving of the arm, but obviously you're probably not going to be able to move the arm and the head as far to the left. That's fine. It's absolutely fine. So don't strain. It's not the purpose. Don't try to do the same range. You're going to naturally have the head is going to be more to the right. And so this time, again, you're going to repeat that rolling motion, and you'll probably find that you can maybe go a little further to the right. And if so, that's great. If not, then that's okay. It's no problem. It's not a contest. And you might be experiencing some sensations. You might not know what to make of those sensations, so slow down. Breathe. Remember that slow and smooth, continuous, that's your friend. That's what's going to help you the most. And now you've got so much feedback going on. So you probably need to slow down even a little bit more, because now you've got, so notice what happens when you place your fingers somewhere. So now we have the left fingers on the left collarbone, and we've got possibly the right fingers behind the left ear. So now we've got a lot of feedback happening. And you might think, oh, why, that shouldn't be such a big deal. But hey, it's a lot of information coming back to your nervous system. You know, the hands, if you ever were to look at the representation in the sensory motor homunculus of the brain of the hands, they have a disproportionately large representation there because they're pretty important. We sense a great deal through our hands. So having your fingertips placed somewhere sends a lot of information to your brain. So you want to really respect that and slow down and see now with this information and with some intention, what's possible. You can start to notice that you can let things soften and lengthen and become supple, so that, hey, all of that tension that you've been holding behind the ears there and back of the skull and along the side of the neck and into the shoulder and into the chest, oh, that can release, that can lengthen. You can start to actually feel that tissue can be soft, and maybe you even start to sense something that you haven't felt in goodness knows how long. Some aliveness and some maybe even relief that you didn't even know that you were doing this thing to yourself, but hopefully you're discovering that you were doing it and that you cannot do that anymore. So we're just letting this happen with awareness, just with feedback, awareness, and intention. So you're not trying to yank on anything. You're not trying to stretch anything. And then do that one or two more times. And then when you're done with that, then slowly bring the hands down to the sides and just notice what this is like and what it's like to breathe now. And does it feel different? So we've done some interesting things, whether you knew it or not. We have done some things to open up the right side of the chest and the upper back, opening up lengthening the latissimus dorsi, and then on the left side, releasing, lengthening pectoral muscles and probably some trapezius and all kinds of things. Probably the muscles is eluding me, it doesn't matter. But you notice, hopefully, some things have changed. So let's do one more thing on this side briefly, and then we're going to switch sides so that we can even things out. So we're going to bring the right arm to the original position. So with the forearm or the wrist resting on the forehead. And well, there's so many things we could do here but we don't have that much time, so we'll just do one. But you can always explore these on, like you're getting a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience with this that you can then start to explore and branch out a little bit on your own, which I would encourage you to do throughout the week. But here we're going to put the right arm in the original position, and then when you bring your left fingertips to your breastbone and then just slide them down until you're touching soft tissue just below the breastbone. And for some people, it's so tense there that you're not even sure if that's soft tissue or if that's more bone. So we'll find out. So just get in the right general ballpark, and we'll go from there. So now, what we're going to do is you're going to do the same movement that we've just been doing, the right to left, rolling of the head with the arm in contact with the forehead. And as you do, slowly, smoothly, and continuously, I want you to feel what's under your left fingertips and let that be soft and softer and softer still. Let it become very yielding. And with every breath, let it become softer. With every turn, let it be softer. Just do 2 more turns. And then when you've completed that, slowly bring the arms down to rest at your sides. Just notice now what it's like to breathe and what's changed. And notice the temptation to go back to the old way, because the new way isn't yet familiar. The old way is distorted and bizarre and unhelpful and painful as it is. That's what you know. And you're not quite yet sure that it's not the right way. So it takes a little while for the nervous system to really figure it out. That's okay. Be patient with it. It will happen. All right. So now, hopefully you feel a little uneven. And let's even that out. So we're just going to do basically the same thing we just did, but with opposite sides. So I'm going to bring the left arm to the forehead so that the back of the wrist or lower forearm is in contact with the forehead. And remember, rest the arm in such a way that you're not putting pressure on the eyeball. And just notice what it's like to breathe here. So it should give you some new sensation. Maybe you notice sensations that you're not really sure what to do with. Maybe you feel things under the left arm or the left side of the rib cage, or even down into the left side of the abdomen. Maybe you feel things on the left side of the chest, or maybe in this sort of thoracic outlet area. Any number of things are possible. And remember, should never be painful, should never be strenuous. So just see how easy you can make it. And if you don't know how to make it easy enough, then just rest. You don't ever try to force anything. Because you can learn an enormous amount and benefit tremendously just from noticing the compulsion to use violence, to try and force yourself to do something that's the right thing right now. So even if you were not to do any movement, just to notice those compulsions and become aware of those is very valuable. Now we're going to slowly move the left arm right and left, just small movement, staying in continuous contact with the forehead, so that this means that the head has to slowly roll back left and right along with the movement of the arm. And as don't make the movement exaggerated, let it be very small right now, because you want to gently expand that range with a continuous smooth movement. You don't want to just fling yourself around mindlessly. And you want to be really aware of the sensation and letting yourself ease into it. So let the arm come to rest as much as possible, and feel the weight of the arm transferring all the way through and around the skull to the back of the head, so that you can feel that the gentle pressure of that helps you to choose to have the intention with this increased awareness to let everything soften, let the muscles and the tissue and the back of the skull soften, so that as the head slowly rolls, it's like you're getting, well, it's not like, you are getting a very nice massage. You can yield to that massage, let the back of the head soften, let the sides of the head soften. There's all these muscles all wrapped around the skull, and we hold those muscles so tight all the time, do the sensory motor amnesia, and then feel really bad. So here's this wonderful opportunity to not do that anymore. And you might feel hesitation sometimes to do that because you're afraid that it's going to hurt. Just notice those things, and know that in time, when you're ready, with patience and persistence and gentleness, you will learn how to yield and how to release and how to experience the ease, so that all the muscles on your skull can be relaxed. Wouldn't that be nice? And then when you are satisfied with that, you can rest, and you can either rest with the forearm still resting on the head, or you can bring it down to rest at your side. And now we're going to bring the right hand, so that the fingers of the right hand touch the right collarbone. And like we did before, you can kind of slide the fingers along that collarbone just to get a sense of where it is and size and shape. And then you can slide them in toward the midline a little bit, in kind of toward the breastbone or the throat. Not so far that you've gone over into the throat, but just kind of near-ish to the throat, to the right of the throat, but toward the midline a little bit. And see that you can really let that arm and hand relax as much as possible, and the shoulder. And then if your left arm is at your side, then bring it back to make contact with the forehead. And then just do the same movement of the right and left, the head rolling. Feel that your head is like a rolling pin. The skull is like a rolling pin, and it's rolling all that soft tissue around the skull, letting it become relaxed. And notice, particularly when you roll and move the head and arm to the left, what you feel under the right fingers. You notice there's all kinds of, there's scalenes that connect from the collarbone up to the to the skull, and there's the these muscles in the chest that are all in there, and all the fascia and all these things that are in there, and they're all kind of confused and not clear and bunched up and tight maybe, and just slowly becoming aware of them. So we're not stretching, we're not yanking, we're not doing anything violent. We're just becoming aware of them, and notice that with this awareness plus intention, you can choose. It seems like a crazy thing, but you can choose to let that lengthen so that it all becomes more relaxed and supple. Helps if you also breathe. And then do one or two more. And when you're ready, you can bring the arms down to the sides and rest. And just notice what it feels like now, what it's like to breathe now. Maybe you can feel your chest is more free. Maybe you can feel the abdomen is more free. Seems surprising that that would be the case, but hey, find out if maybe it's true. And certainly you might find greater ease in the throat and the neck. Well, of course, on the other hand, you might find there's just more sensation in general. Some of that sensation, your nervous system might register as not so pleasant. So that's one of the side benefits, is that along the way, we get to become aware of a lot of other things that we stuffed into the back of the closet. And so if you ever find that, which sooner or later you will, don't be afraid that you've done something wrong. Quite the opposite. You've done something wonderful, and you actually have all the tools that you need in order to relieve yourself of that additional sensory motor amnesia that you've started to uncover. And I'll guide you through that before we end today, just so you know how you can do that on your own. So let's now do the final, well, there's two more parts, I guess. Let's do the second to last part of the sequence. So you're going to bring the right hand back to the right collarbone, and you're going to bring the left hand and the left arm to the forehead, as we've done. And you have an option. You can just continue to have it on the forehead as we've done, or you can wrap the left fingers behind the right ear, so that ideally the fingertips are touching the skull behind the ear, so that the forearm is on the forehead, but the fingertips are behind the right ear. Now, if you're thinking, I don't know how on earth I could ever do that, then you don't right now, and that's okay. Remember, you have options. But if you find that you can do that, then, and you'd like to do that, then wonderful. So you do that. And remember, in this position, you're probably not going to be moving the head and arm as far to the right as before, but maybe a little further to the left. That's fine. Don't strain, but we're going to do the same rolling of right and left within the range that you have available to you. And you have to really do it slowly with awareness, because remember, now you've got fingertips touching possibly at least in two places, so you got huge amounts of feedback. you've got the forearm on the forehead and the fingers on behind the ear and the skull in contact with the floor, and the right hand in contact with the collarbone, plus feeling everything on your whole back on the floor. And if you're really sensitive, you notice the whole body is participating in the movement. You start to notice the ribs have to move, and the waist has to move, and everything has to move. So you just slow down, and magic happens. You don't have to work so hard. In fact, the less hard work you do, the better the results. Okay. And remember, we're not yanking or stretching or doing any kind of violent thing, but you just notice there's so much tension there, isn't there? There's so much discomfort, and you just know that you can direct your intention with all of this sensory feedback that you're getting. You can actually choose to start to consciously let that soften and become supple and relaxed and lengthen, so that you can really start to feel, literally, you can feel the tissue lengthening under your fingertips. You can feel the release. You can feel how your whole neck becomes longer, and your chest becomes more open, the shoulder becomes more open. You can actually feel that happening. And then if you want to do one more, welcome to do that. And then when you're ready, you're going to bring the arms to the sides and just notice what this is like. Can you feel your head and neck and chest and throat now in a new way? Hopefully. And then when you're ready, we'll just complete the sequence. You're going to bring the left arm to the forehead in the original position. And you're going to bring your right fingertips to the breastbone, and then slide them down until you find soft tissue, or what you suspect might be soft tissue. And then we're going to just do the same slow rolling of the head, the arm moving right and left. And see how soft and supple you can let that tissue under your right fingertips become and remain. You don't need to hold so much tension there, just to do this gentle movement. So you let that tissue become soft, and notice that as you do that, your breathing can become freer. Everything can move more pleasurably. Just do one or two more movements there, and then when you're complete with that, you can bring the arms to rest at the sides. And so that concludes our explorations for today. I'm going to give you a few pointers in concluding today so that you can make the most of it. So one thing that I want you to be aware of is, first of all, just notice your whole body. Notice your legs. Notice your pelvis. Notice your groin. Have you forgotten all about that part of your body, and you maybe holding some unnecessary tension there? So you can just maybe let the knees gently sway a little, just little movements, just left and right, and just see that you can let everything go. You don't need to hold any tension there. Let the See that you can maybe let the pelvis gently rock along with the knees, so it can just kind of slowly go left and right. Feel that it's rolling left and right. Just slow, gentle, subtle movements, just to bring more awareness and release into that part of the body. And then you can feel how that, of course, involves the whole body. So now you can feel how that's all the way from your feet up to the knees, to the pelvis, all along the spine, the waist, the ribs, shoulders, the head, everything. Just let it freely participate in that gentle movement. Don't try to control it so much as just feel into it. Let that natural participation reveal itself, and notice that you can really experience greater ease that way. So you're welcome to continue that if you'd like, or not if you don't want to. And I'll just say a few more words in wrapping up. So if you notice any of what I was pointing out earlier, of that the sensations that you had no idea there was anything there, but now you feel some things that you maybe are not so pleased to be feeling, as can sometimes happen. Number one, as I said, don't ever fall for the wrong thinking that you've somehow done the wrong thing, because if you reflect on what's happened here, you've only been gentle and nourishing, and you've certainly not used any violence. So you didn't do anything wrong. What's happened is you've just become aware, and you've proven to yourself, and if you experience any awakening of sensation, good or bad, all you've done is proven to yourself the reality of sensory motor amnesia. And then it just means you've started to awaken the awareness of that. And that's very good news, because that means that greater ease and freedom is just around the corner. So, obviously, and hopefully you have directly had some revelation of that greater ease. In our explorations today, you should have noticed some undeniable release and lengthening of some parts of the body. You actually could feel it and notice it. But as I said, on the other hand, what can come along with that is some other stuff that now you're awake to that you didn't really quite release all the way. So how can you help yourself? Well, one thing you could do is you just could continue. In this case, I think the easiest thing to do would be just continue with these same movements that we explored today. But notice that you can use your hand placement to help you to get more feedback more quickly, so that you can then direct your intention to let that part of yourself release. So, for example, if you noticed, many people hold a lot of tension in the trapezius muscles, okay, along that connects, the big muscles connect up into the head, then, along the neck, into the shoulders, and in the upper back. And so it's possible you would notice some discomfort there. So all that's happened in that case is you just have to remember, first and foremost, you didn't do anything that caused this. You have just revealed that was there. So this is good news, not bad news. And you have perhaps somewhat crude at this point, but nonetheless some tools that can help you. So you can continue with the same movement, but put your hand, as we placed the hand on the collarbone, or the hand on the xiphoid process. You could place the hand as you're doing the movement with the other arm and head. You could place the fingertips on the part that has the sensation, and you'll find out, oh wow, it's very taut. No wonder I'm having that sensation. But then as soon as you have that awareness and the sensory feedback from the fingers there and the gentle movement, it's going to help you to direct the intention to lengthen and soften that tissue so you can get some relief in that way. And the good news about it is that this is the lasting thing. Now, one more note, and then we'll conclude, is that about it being lasting, you may well notice that you have some recurrence of, so you'll get a release, some relief from something, and then you may notice sometime after, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days, that there's some recurrence of that old pattern of tension, sensory motor amnesia. So it's reasserted itself. So don't despair. That's pretty normal. But all that's happened is that your nervous system hasn't yet fully gotten the message that this new way is really the better way. And so it just needs the reminder. It's like anything, practice makes perfect. So as you repeat the exploration each time, it will get clearer to you, and you will no longer fall back into the old patterns of unnecessary tension. So I encourage you to continue with these explorations gently, always gently, many times over the week, at least once a day. I wouldn't encourage you necessarily to do it for an hour each day, but 10 minutes or so each day would be an excellent way to help yourself establish the new learning so that you don't fall back into the old pattern. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. And if you have any questions or concerns or anything, you know how to get in contact with me. So please do. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help and provide support. So you don't have to go it alone. So please do reach out if you have any questions or doubts or concerns. And that's all for today. Blessings to you all. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.